Aryna Sabalenka just suffered one of the most brutal collapses in Grand Slam final history. And now Wimbledon champion Pat Cash is calling her immature and saying she capitulated. Former British #1 Annabel Croft went even further, saying Sabalenka beat herself up and lost composure completely. The world #1 is facing harsh criticism after blowing a 3-0 third-set lead in the Australian Open final. Was the criticism from Pat Cash and Annabel Croft fair? Or are they being too harsh on a player who's already won 4 Grand Slams? Aryna Sabalenka was 3 games away from her 3rd Australian Open title. She led Elena Rybakina 3-0 in the deciding set of the final, completely in control, looking unstoppable. Then everything fell apart. She got broken in each of her next 2 service games, completely lost composure, and ultimately lost the match 4-6, 6-4, 4-6. Now, former champions are absolutely destroying her in the media for how she handled the pressure, and the criticism is getting brutal.
How do I say it in a nice way? She really pissed me off. The ball was deep. The ball was like, the bounce was wrong, and it was just like the timing, and I was like exhaling, and it just happened naturally. And then she called it, and I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, I think it was a wrong call, but whatever. She really, how do I say it in a nice way? She really pissed me off, and it's actually helped me and benefit my game. I was more aggressive. I was not happy with the call, and it really helped me to get that game. So if she ever want to do it again, go ahead, call it. It's going to help me.
Pat Cash, the 1987 Wimbledon champion, said Sabalenka capitulated and will have a lot of things to think about after the collapse. That's a former Grand Slam winner essentially saying she gave up, that she mentally folded under pressure when victory was right there. Cash was speaking on BBC Radio 5 Live, and he didn't hold back. He pointed out that Sabalenka was extremely effective on first serves in the second set, barely dropping points, but then everything unraveled in the third when she couldn't close out the match. But the really damaging criticism came from Annabel Croft, former British #1 and world #4. She called Sabalenka's behavior immature and said she beat herself up in the final set. Croft's analysis was particularly harsh. I felt that she had really taken her game to another level, but she couldn't keep forging ahead because there was resistance down the other end. Then the arms started flailing and it got a little bit immature out there. She wasn't handling the situation well, she was strutting around and she lost her composure completely. That's basically saying Sabalenka acted like a child throwing a tantrum when things got difficult. The arms started flailing comment paints a picture of someone losing control physically and emotionally. The strutting around suggests body language that showed frustration and defeat before the match was even over. This is coming from a former top player who understands pressure at the highest level, and she's saying Sabalenka's response was immature. That's damning in that third set, because the collapse was truly spectacular in the worst way possible. Sabalenka won the first 3 games convincingly. She was serving well, hitting ground strokes with authority, and Rybakina looked like she was fading. Then, Rybakina held serve to make it 3-1. Sabalenka served at 3-1 up a break and got broken. Arms started flailing, as Croft described. The frustration was visible. Rybakina held to even the set at 3-3. Sabalenka served again and got broken again. Now Rybakina was serving for the championship at 4-3. She held relatively comfortably. Sabalenka served to stay in the match at 3-5, and she did manage to hold, forcing Rybakina to serve it out. But the damage was done. She'd been broken twice in a row after leading 3-0, and the mental collapse was obvious to everyone watching. What made this particularly brutal was the context. This was Sabalenka's 4th consecutive Australian Open final. She won in 2024 and 2025. She was going for the three-peat, which would have been historic. She entered the final having won 11 straight matches and 22 consecutive sets to start the year, including a title run in Brisbane. She was playing the best tennis of her life, completely dominant, destroying everyone in her path. And then, when it mattered most, she choked. Cash pointing out that Sabalenka basically capitulated is harsh but accurate. Capitulate means to surrender, to give up, to stop resisting. That's what it looked like when she got broken twice in a row from 3-0 up. It looked like she stopped believing she could win, stopped executing the game plan that got her the 3-0 lead, and started playing scared. Champions don't capitulate. Champions find a way to close out matches when they're up 3-0 in the third set of a Grand Slam final. Croft's comment about panic setting in and Sabalenka steamrolling in the wrong direction is particularly vivid. It captures how quickly the collapse happened. 1 minute she's cruising toward a third straight Australian Open title. The next minute she's unraveling mentally and emotionally, and the momentum is completely reversed. Tennis at the highest level is as much mental as physical, and Sabalenka's mental game failed her spectacularly. The immature criticism hits especially hard because Sabalenka is 27 years old and has won 4 Grand Slam titles. This isn't a young player learning how to handle pressure. This is an experienced champion who should know how to manage her emotions and maintain composure in crucial moments. The fact that she lost it so completely, arms flailing, strutting around, visible frustration, suggests she hasn't developed the mental toughness required to consistently win the biggest matches. Sabalenka's record in Grand Slam finals now stands at 4-4. She's won 4 and lost 4. That's a 50% success rate in the biggest matches of her career. For someone with her talent and power, that's not good enough. The truly great champions, Serena Williams, Steffi Graf, Martina Navratilova, dominated finals. They didn't fall apart when they had leads. Sabalenka is showing a pattern of not being able to finish when it matters most. Even more concerning is her recent finals record across all tournaments. She's lost 6 of her last 10 finals. That's a player who's great at getting to finals but struggling to actually win them. That's a mental issue, not a talent issue. She has all the physical tools to dominate women's tennis. She has the power, the serve, the ground strokes. What she's missing is the mental fortitude to execute under maximum pressure when opponents fight back. Croft's observation about Sabalenka not handling resistance well is crucial. She said Sabalenka played at another level to get to 3-0, but she couldn't keep forging ahead because there was resistance down the other end. That means when Rybakina started playing better and making the games competitive, Sabalenka couldn't maintain her level. Instead of rising to the challenge, she wilted. That's what separates good players from great ones. Great players elevate when opponents elevate. Sabalenka collapsed. The timing of this collapse makes it even worse. This was the Australian Open, her favorite tournament where she'd won the previous 2 years. This was Rod Laver Arena, where she'd had so much success. This was against an opponent she'd beaten before. Every factor was in her favor, and she still choked. That has to raise serious questions about her ability to win the biggest matches when pressure is at its absolute peak. Cash and Croft's criticism is getting attention because they're not random commentators. These are former champions who've been in high-pressure situations themselves. They know what it takes to win at the highest level, and they're saying Sabalenka doesn't have it mentally. Cash won Wimbledon and reached number 4 in the world. Croft reached number 24 and competed at the highest levels. When players like that call you immature and say you capitulated, that carries weight. The phrase, beat herself up from Croft is interesting because it suggests Sabalenka's worst enemy was herself, not Rybakina. The opponent across the net didn't beat her as much as she beat herself through poor emotional management and mental collapse. In tennis, that's the worst kind of loss. Losing because your opponent played better is acceptable. Losing because you fell apart mentally is inexcusable for a player of Sabalenka's caliber. Sabalenka's body language during the collapse apparently showed everything. The arm flailing, the strutting around, the visible frustration, all of it communicated to Rybakina that she was mentally breaking down. Smart opponents see that and capitalize. Rybakina probably sensed the shift in momentum and Sabalenka's mental state, which made her job easier. When your body language broadcasts panic and frustration, you're giving your opponent confidence. The immature label is going to sting because maturity is supposed to come with experience. Sabalenka isn't a rookie learning the ropes. She's a 4-time Grand Slam champion who should have the experience and mental tools to avoid these kinds of collapses. The fact that she's still having these emotional breakdowns in finals suggests a fundamental issue with how she handles pressure that hasn't been addressed despite years at the top of the sport.